things, all the things that think about how you live. Think about what you give. Think about how you live. All the things that you give. Think about how we live together. Think about being kids forever. Just think about this, remember. We would be more than fun. Think about how you live. We would be done soon. Think about what you give.
Working in Paris. Pick me up. I'm gonna rise this evening and say to his eyes that believing is easy when you're living a lie. It's so cold, waiting for your favorite ride. It's so cold, wait until you get inside. It's so cold, when I play your favorite part. It's all gone, oh it's all gone, baby then I break your. Working in Paris. Pick me up. Oui, c'est ça. I'm on the rise this evening. Now we say our goodbyes. That pretending was easy when you're late with a lie. Working in Paris. Pick me up. Tonight. Pick me up.
Hello, everybody.
Howdy do.
Present and future, or past, if you're somehow watching this from the past.
Hey, Jim. I know you're sitting there on that couch. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Enjoy that popcorn.
Who's Jim?
Yeah, Jim.
I'll meet him eventually.
yeah, Jim. Thanks.
Jim, for 2
Appreciate
weeks
it,
from now.
future Jim. So we're back. We're talking about rape culture today. Oh, we're back to tangent talks. You know, I gotta keep reminding myself that on this channel there will be more things than just us.
Than the 17 segments that we're trying
Yeah,
to
exactly. It's the 17 segments that we're trying to do outside of Tangent Talks. But this is Tangent Talks, Common Sense. And we're talking about rape culture, the second one. So if you've missed the first one, go back. There will be a video just on YouTube. It's just going to be part one of this exact video, of this concept. And we have special guests today. Right now, I know you see that there's only one special guest, but a second special guest will join us later. Right now we got Miss Marie. She was with us last time. And her sister will actually be joining us, Miss Katie. At some point, she is en route. Is that how you say it? En route.
I just like saying that in general.
Feels like the
I'm en
crick and creek debate. Is it a crick or a creek?
Got a creak in my neck.
But then we got the Michael Statoon over there.
Hey, buddies.
We got that Tomasio. I'm Tony. Thank you guys for being here. We're just gonna kind of give into it. We're gonna give in.
We lost our mic stands in a freakish storm.
Freakish
so now we
storm
just
accident.
They're just gone. They vanished.
For those of you that don't know, in the Midwest, storms take away your microphone stands.
Only your microphone
They pull them
stands.
right out of your car.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been super busy this whole last month. All of us, I'm pretty sure we've all been traveling. If not actually busy with work, we've been just living life, and we're exhausted and happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you get that vibe, that's exactly what you're feeling. We're all a little tired. And Miss Marie, she drove 3 hours to be here today. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We can just kind of get into where we left off. I mean, we laid down the groundwork last time of what we wanted to talk about and where we thought the most beneficial topic points. The most beneficial topic points were within rape culture in itself. And today we're going to be talking about a few things that are on both sides of the spectrum, talking about masculinity, femininity. I struggle with both those words and I don't know why. And let me just pull up my little list here because my memory is like a goldfish. We're going to be talking about ambivalent sexism theory, and a thing that is a little bit more of a riff point. We're just going to be kind of riffing off of it. It's something that I didn't really specifically research, but overlabeling a generalized society. That's a really broad idea. But when we start giving too many labels to certain aspects of our lives, how can that affect us? So I think starting it off by showing that little clip that we showed last time, the female pleasure movie, which funny story, I was looking for female pleasure movie trailer and in YouTube I just typed in female pleasure, and I'm sure that you don't just type that into YouTube. You don't. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't.
Well, you did.
I did, though.
The results
I did.
that you would expect.
I did. I was expecting something different for some reason.
Well, you went into it with a completely innocent mindset.
Yeah, I
on
did. But here, I'll transition this over to the other screen, and nothing changed except for the screen itself. Okay, I'm just going to show this trailer, and then we'll get into the talks.
Talks.
We live in an environment where women are constantly judged.
女性は男性のイメージ通りでなければ嫌われます。
What is it that happened billions of years ago that they felt they had to do this to our bodies?
The concept of love does not exist in India.
In der Welt, in der ich gelebt habe, war ich als Frau eine Gefahr.
I was 17 years old. I was to have intercourse with someone I didn't know.
It's about controlling women's sexuality, and that's a global issue.
チンコは立てまつられているのに自分の肩でも取ってマンコっていうか
An artist in Tokyo has been arrested for 3D printing an image of her vagina.
非正規になっても日本はそんな状態なのって
They're practicing patriarchy, which is a universal religion.
It's very difficult to have men talk about things which actually questions their masculinity.
Women need to remember that they actually own their bodies.
The female body is just as precious, just as valuable as the man's. You cannot isolate the role of men and the role of women. It's not a question of fixing one gender before the other. We all have to change.
Click pause before it just plays another video. It always does that. But every time I just watched the trailer, they did a really good job with the production value of, especially the trailer. The whole movie was really, really good. And before I just start saying words, because I do that sometimes, I'm just gonna turn it over to Miss Marie over there, because I think you're what showed us this video to begin with, and it reminds me of a lot of things just with you showing us. So
a friend of mine is who made me aware of the movie. He had watched it and was kind of like a little bit like it wasn't what he expected. And then I don't even know if he watched the whole thing, but he had started it, and I was like, well, I want to watch that. And one of the things that I appreciated the most about it was how global it puts this whole conversation. Like, it's not this isn't like a Western problem by any means, like localized. Like that movie does a great job of showing how it's very much like a global phenomenon, this like separation of feminine and masculine, and these like very distorted ideas that we have about what humanness is, and how lost we are from the ideas of wholeness, how compartmentalized and separated things have become.
If anything, America has a lot more ability to just talk about these issues, whereas in other countries, I mean, lady literally makes a mold of her vagina and she gets arrested. It's like,
the contrast in like it being subversive versus overt. There's definitely big contrast there about how it presents, but the energy is still there. The energy is the same. It's just if it manifests in a really direct way or in a really indirect way. It's like a communication difference. But the essential message is the same.
If there was one part of the movie that you felt was most powerful within it, or the biggest takeaway that
honestly, my favorite story, and this is like a little bit of a spoiler alert because you don't find this out until the very end, but there's a woman in Japan that makes the mold of her vagina, and the 3D prints it, and then shares the 3D print file of it, and that is considered like obscenity or something in Japan, and so she gets arrested, and it's this whole thing. But in the process of her getting arrested and fighting the case and whatever, there's this like rock and roll singer in Europe, I think maybe Britain or something, that starts following her stuff because there's like this big thing, and they fall in love and they have a baby, and then at the end of it, like they're together and she's pregnant, and so like that, because it's just like, you know, sometimes these things that we're just like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. But the thing that comes out of it at the end, you're like, well, actually, the best thing that ever happened to me couldn't have happened to me if this horrible thing hadn't happened to me. So that's my favorite story of the whole movie. Yeah, just this whole, like, you never know, is this good or is this bad? Like, it you know, who knows? You don't know until the story is complete.
Truthfully.
So, yeah.
Truthfully.
That reminds me of a story that I heard.
I feel like you started that sentence off like every grandfather ever. That reminds
me of a story from back in '92. I watched an interview with the lead singer of Rush, and his parents were. What? I can bring up Rush every podcast.
Do you know that Primus is doing a tour right now where they are performing an entire Rush album? That's like what they do. Yeah.
I'm gonna nerd out about that later. So
we should go. They're in Missoula in like a couple weeks.
I would love to go.
Missoula. I mean, that's like a.
Is it after the 20th? I don't know. We can talk about that later. But
I'm really happy that brought this information.
Significant tangent. Let's bring it back. We'll table
Tangent talks.
We'll talk about that afterwards.
And Tom, I wasn't judging. I was literally just giving you eye contact. That was it.
Like you
that was
it. Up Rush again.
Well, then I turned into the judgmental grandfather, just like that. I wasn't trying to. I was looking at you. That's why I changed the desk like this, so I could look at you. I just want to look at you, Thomas. God.
Mentally.
So
Geddy
but the
Lee.
story is, I'll paraphrase it, is that his parents were both in the Holocaust, because he's a 70-year-old, around 70 years old now. His parents were in the Holocaust, and they met in that. And
in a
then-
concentration camp.
Yeah, they met in a concentration camp, and then they were liberated, and then they got married and had him. So like some things just don't happen unless. I'm not saying that that's great that happened, just that things.
But he also
things
wouldn't
come out
have
of
been
bad
born.
things.
I
Yeah.
have Rush because of that.
Here, I'm gonna change the screen back so we're not just looking at coming soon is bigger than all of us.
That story reminded me of that.
Yeah, that's well, and I think of like Man's Search for Meaning. Who's that? Oh, I'm drawing a blank on the author of Man's Search for Meaning. But anyway, Holocaust survivor, and a big part of that book is just this like that tension that is created in suffering is what allows the appreciation of like joy to be a thing.
Well,
So.
there's that rotation. It's like weak men make strong men, or it's some I can't remember exactly what it is. It's like weak men make strong men like destroy, like they like bring this like complacency and destruction and like total apathy, and then the apathetic will inspire other people to become strong men, which will then, like this is never ending cycle of just like. No matter how bad it gets, there's going to be somebody who hopefully changes. Like, people will get old and they will die, and people will get sick of shit. And
Well, it's that ebb and flow. Like, it's like there's nothing is static. Like, it's not like like this idea that you can somehow come to this place of, like, peace, and it can be, like, it's just, but it's also boring. Like, that tension is what makes life interesting, too.
Agreed.
So.
Agreed. What about you, Sir Mikey? What was something that you pulled away from it that, or just like a relation? Because we don't want to give away the full movie specifically, because I'd love for people to just actually watch it and invest their time into actually watching it. But any relation that you kind of had from it?
I'm getting blessed by the kitty right now, too.
Yeah, dude, you really are.
Never does this.
He's like hanging out,
He just
truthfully.
came to party. So one thing that I got out of it, and we were actually having a conversation earlier, which I'll bring back one point, is Maria had said that like humans make stories, and usually those stories break from like having those impactful moments, the moments of shock, like, and sometimes what's the word I'm looking for? There's grand displays that really throw people off guard, really set those things into motion, and I want to bring it back to the woman that made the cast of her vagina. You see a split of it in the preview that she put it on a canoe, or somebody put it on a canoe.
Yep.
And that's what really like had kickstarted it off. Like, no matter what happened from the moment that she got arrested, that like blueprint was still out there. Like, she had made that decision, and from that birthed that like giant display. And I thought that was the most insane
Hey,
part of the
Sylvie,
movie of her.
stop biting the cord, bro.
No.
That's a nobody.
But he's so calm.
He's so calm and just
It looks
calmly
like his head is just
destructive.
in the couch, but
He's like in a circle.
So he was walking earlier. I'm gonna change it real quick, and like he was right here, and I was just kind of casually tucking his tail, and I was like, "Kitty, your butt is in the camera. Like, we're gonna get copyright."
his ass is copyrighted. It's
Copyright ass.
We trademark.
Hey, just like the blueprint. I mean,
But that huge display of like the canoe is one of those like moments where it's so shocking, and like, well, the shock value alone is like, that's a story in itself. That I think that kick-started it off. That one really resonated with me. You'll see different moments like that in like human history, of people being so outlandish that that's the stories that stick with you.
Well, and I think almost it kind of comes from like a disruption of story. Like,
So
there's
out of the
something,
mold.
yeah, like where you're just like, I don't have a place to put this in my story. Like, in that it kind of interrupts your story and brings a little bit more consciousness to it, where you're like, I have to think for a minute, because this made me like, I can't just easily place this.
I think a current, I can't remember the date of when that happened, This was in the 2000s, right? When she was arrested. But just recently, a guy by the name of Steve-O had done a similar-ish display where he climbed to the top of a crane and had blown up a giant orca floaty to display how SeaWorld is like harming their animals. Like he got the streets of like LA shut down and fire stations and everyone. He made such a grand display to show that SeaWorld was like hurting, and it took that magnitude of something to like it shut down everybody's daily lives and force them to watch.
Right.
And that was like a very similar like parallel in that movie. And I thought that was phenomenal.
Bouncing off what you're saying, I mean, just if you haven't watched Jackass before, or just like the Jackass crew with Steve-O and Bam and all of them, I mean, honestly, just watching their development themselves, they kind of have been that like destructive, artistic, exactly what we're talking about. They were like so out there, and so they're just bringing their own body's destruction, and then you see a good portion of them like move on to actually like work on themselves. And there's that whole weird battle with Bam and their whole crew right now of Bam just like, we're not gonna like what's what I'm looking for, where you don't help somebody but you like keep letting them do their enabling. Yeah, they're like, dude, we're not gonna keep enabling you. And that's just like, it's so interesting to see these people who are also like self-destructive for so long actually take like that stand. And we're very tangency around these parts, but it's just they drawn that line between like what is acceptable behavior within themselves now, and being like, man, you just need to like stop. You need to just stop.
Well, there can be a super fine line between enabling and harming.
Oh yeah. Right.
Because like enabling someone is very much can be harming behavior when you're allowing them to continue to hurt themselves or hurt others.
Especially when they're in I mean, like kids will have that certain amount of defiance. And in some ways that will help them grow, and hopefully when they do something super stupid, they just I can't even say stupid, like when they do something where like they actively understand that hurt them, hopefully that teaches them. But if it's an adult, it's so hard, like you really have to be like, man, we're done. We are done. You were 40 years old. Like, we're super done. We're done.
On such a insane flip of like how cultures work around the world, like you have those acts of defiance that like it's hard to do that. I would say what comes to mind immediately is like in other countries where women wear hijabs and they're completely clothed and everything, like they can't step out of bounds and make that kind of display because of the society that they're in is so structured for them to be just concealed, that like where is the starting point of like breaking away from that? Like the structure has been built for so long that like it's just a norm to be completely concealed.
And I think that was the intention.
There's also safety in it for the women. Like it's not like these kinds of constructs are not like there is safety in continuing to adhere to that kind of, and it's not, to me it's not, it speaks to that like overt, like subversive, indirect versus direct kind of experiencing of like the same idea.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that it is a like safety. Well, I'm going to say protocol. Protocol sounds very like governmental. What's the word that I'm looking for? I don't know. This is a tough one. At some point, is it like mandated as like a submissive type thing for the women to follow this, or would you say that they would prefer to have the freedom to be concealed or not?
I think that there's both. I think there are definitely women, just like here in our country, this kind of comes up to it hits up to the ambivalent sexism theory, because that's more how I would say that it presents itself here in the West, where it's this like tension between chivalry and women are somehow evil, like that kind of tension between that thing. But that core idea is the same in either culture. There's somehow the flesh is evil, the flesh is sin, and women's body represent that evil sin. Like the whole like those the stories that the creation stories of the monotheistic religions, of this idea of the fall and it was Eve that
That ate
gave
the
Adam.
apple
I mean,
and,
that's
yeah.
that core idea, and so then it presents itself in different ways in different cultures. And the way that the Islamic culture has decided to engage with this is by covering a woman's body for her safety, for men's safety, for everybody's safety, because that body is that it's sinful. It is like it's temptation, and if we cover it up and we can't see it, then everything's okay. But that core idea is still there. That core belief is still there, and in my opinion, that core belief is wrong. Like it's not what I believe. That there, but that to me is kind of that core underlying idea of those monotheistic religions, is that separation of spirituality and physicality. That the physical body is somehow evil.
Right.
It kind of bleeds into what we were talking about right before the stream happened with just tradition in general. When something happens for so long, we almost don't really know why we do it anymore. It's like,
just
we've been doing it for thousands of years. It's like, why would we stop now? Maybe not thousands of years.
No, you are right.
From
Thousands
religion.
of years. The commitment to this story is thousands of years of
it's
commitment
insane.
to this story of the fall from the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve and the
Well,
whole,
even looking back at religion, like right after we'll go with like the stereotypical Christianity. We'll go with like maybe not Catholics. Catholics are pretty intense with how
Catholics have dominated the Christian religion.
They very much dominated. But even looking at the prophets or the people who were very close to what may have been like real Christ, they're sitting there and like, we don't even know. We don't even know what happened. We don't know what happened.
That was 2,000 years ago.
That was 2,000 years ago, and even them, 10 years after something supposedly happened, they're like, wait, like,
yes.
It's the active translation through different generations.
Absolutely. It takes on a new life with each person that retells the story.
Yep. Well, and then going into governmental things, I mean, how people choose to in their society cover the women. I mean, how does their spirituality or just their customs, which ones do they want in order to control the people in the way in which they want?
Like what makes things run as smoothly as possible.
And obviously everything's different everywhere because we know that not an entire group of humans can just agree on one damn thing. Everyone's like, I want to do something just a little bit different.
The level of punishment that these countries do to people that go off of these mandates that they have set, where like wearing clothes to where you can't see any piece of your skin basically is pretty rough too. I mean, like the only one I can reference, because I heard about it years ago, and I hope it's not true, is where they drag you through the streets because you didn't wear the right clothing.
For separating yourself.
Yeah. However they do it, they just drag you through the streets, which is like embarrassing for one, but also you could probably die if it's by that's. Why do we even have punishments for such a thing, or why do they? It goes back, like we've been saying, thousands of years. But it's nuts that that's a thing.
Well, it has been a privilege as we grow up to be like asked the question why. I was annoying with that question. It's just like why, but like why.
But that is critical thinking.
Yeah.
That is what is asking
Curiosity.
the questions. Yeah, being not swallowing something just because some authority person said it. Like not just like taking it at face value, but being like, well, why? I mean, like to me, that is a very underdeveloped skill in the world. That willingness to ask questions, because it is what undermines authority.
Good meow meow. Good meow.
You're on mic.
Every time I leave him out, I swear he's just like so adventurous. And then we turn off the cameras. He's just like, I just want to sit now. Gotta get a. See, he's the tension reliever.
Keep breathing in the mic. It's not good.
See, that's the one thing with our microphone stands when we didn't have them was the freedom to.
Freedom.
I could just breathe anywhere. Oh man.
One thing I do want to talk about while we have everyone here too is like how everyone here sees our society, what we live in day to day, as talking about the polar opposites in another country like Islam and everything. Here in America, we have the huge idea of freedom and everyone gets their own little taste of that, and we've seen an explosion of freedom in expression in today's culture, where everyone is coming out and being who they want to be. And decided to maybe just go around and see everybody sees about, like, I don't know, the pros and the cons of fully expression, or fully expressed without reprimandation. Like, we have the
without
exact,
being reprimanded,
yeah,
or
we have the exact opposite of other countries where we don't get punished for being expressive.
Right.
In theory.
in
Yes.
theory.
Absolutely.
I think
So
that-
social pressure is definitely
Yeah, I mean, people are
pretty
fighting.
heavy.
People are fighting legally, and
There is clashes,
and also protesting for the rights to, marry when you're the same sex, or and all kinds of things like that. But I forgot what the fuck I was saying.
You know how easy that is when a camera's on you? You're like,
I started saying that, and then the other point left my brain. So I'm just.
Are you guys familiar with the protests that have been going on here in town over the last few weeks?
hmm
You,
like the library debacle.
Yeah.
yes, actually. It had something huge to do with my workplace, which I won't say live, but it has been pretty big.
yeah. Well, and that was the first thing that came to my mind when you started talking about freedom, because working this idea of being able to say to a public library, you can't have these materials, is a direct attack upon freedom, because the library is a neutral space. The library is a place where you can go and you can access whatever ideas you want to. Like, that's the point of the library. And I feel like that is something that has not been expressed strongly enough in this conversation that is happening in our community. Because here you have a group of people that are coming in and they're saying, well, our ideas are the right ideas.
Right.
And you need to get rid of these other ideas because they are the wrong ideas. And the thing is, like, well, the idea of having intellectual freedom, having freedom of speech, is that there are no such things as bad ideas. Like, everybody gets to have their ideas and they have the same exposure. That doesn't mean that they have the library, there's no material in the library that the library endorses. That's not what the library does.
Right, it's all educational.
They provide the material, they provide access, and that's what maintaining intellectual freedom is maintaining that ability to access whatever ideas you want to access. It doesn't, there's no judgment placed upon those ideas. It's just, you have access to whatever you want to read about, whatever you want to learn about, whatever you want to hear somebody else say, or what, however you want to have your experience validated, you have access to that, and so, like, when people go in and start saying you can't have these things here, that's where, freedom of intellectual freedom and freedom of speech is being challenged. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. And I'd like to say, too, for, like, a library's point of view, too, is that no matter what time of year or what specific idea is currently being talked about, it's always, like, at the forefront of, like, knowledge, whether it's Black History Month or if it's, like, Pride Day or anything like President's Day. There will be a kiosk or something that is, like, highlighting that specific thing so people can educate themselves.
Right.
So it's not, like, fully directional on, like, one idea, like you said, endorsing.
No. It's about access. It's about letting people know, like, this is that you have access to this.
It's the culture of people, no matter what problem it is, whether it's because of their religious views or just their personal beliefs outside of religion. They think that taking away information is going to somehow save the next generation. The reason why we have problems is because a lot of people don't have access to the information they need, and it might not even be the right information. It's just the information that people should be allowed access to. They don't have it. They don't have the ability to make their own decisions. Like, obviously, you shouldn't be shoving a bunch of words that a child can't understand. Like, a 5-year-old probably doesn't need to see some things. There is a certain level of protection that every parent is allowed.
Well, and that's a completely different conversation, because parents are, but each person is granted that freedom to interact with whatever they want to interact with. And then within the family, of course, you set whatever boundaries you want to set within your family, but the library doesn't set any of those boundaries. Those boundaries are set. That's exactly the point, is the library does not set those boundaries. And it's that encouraging of, you don't just accept this idea just, and then you're like, oh, nothing else exists. You know, like it's super important to not only expose yourself to ideas that you agree with, but also to expose yourself with ideas that you don't necessarily agree with off of like at face value, because that interaction with them, you know, brings up those questions of like, and it makes you think, like, and then you have that to reconcile those ideas that are different. Like you're holding ideas, two very different ideas, you're holding them at the same time, and you're like, okay, these ideas exist simultaneously, and then your mind has to go through that process of reconciling, how is this possible? And then new ideas come in to your experience.
So you're like, why is there this like push against two different, like, why is there two different answers here? You make your own decisions for yourself with the information available. So if there's not enough information available, you have that one bit of information out there, then everyone's just like, yeah, that's right.
It's gotta be.
I have confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's fine. I just wanted to quickly say thank you guys for all showing up today. I don't know who NoCal is, but our Twitch channel, so we just decided to move over to YouTube.
Yeah.
Just because it's more accessible for people. Just like we were talking about, a lot of people don't use Twitch, so we'll give the information where a lot more people are.
They don't have a cow?
No cows.
No cow?
No cows. No, it's a no knock owl.
Well, hi, knock
No,
owl.
no cat. No.
I don't have a
No cow.
phone or anything to look at right now, but I
And
thought you said
Colton,
no cow.
Colton, if you're still in here, thanks for coming, buddy.
Hi, buddy.
But I was still going around the rotation for Tomo, the film, the female pleasure movie.
Right, we derailed for a second.
We derailed. It was okay. I was about to transition into this other stuff because we're tangent talks.
Mm-hmm.
We're good at talking. It's good.
Right.
That means tangents are allowed, right?
Yeah, tangents
Yeah,
are super allowed.
no, we could do whatever, really.
I think we've had multiple things, especially with the common sense ones, where we just don't talk about the topic almost the whole time. Where it's like, you know what? I think we just talked about whatever we wanted to talk about today.
Yeah, what we've been going off about just now, though, is like
We on topic.
everything related to it.
Yeah.
There's things that are related to what we're talking about. But I'm still upset that I forgot what I was talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah, the first time.
And it felt like it was such a good one, too.
I hate
I'm
that.
sad.
I do that so much. I do that when I'm filming by myself. I'll be writing something and I'll start talking and then I'm like, dude, I was thinking about something while I was filming and now I can't remember what I was gonna do and it was so good. Ugh.
Yeah, but I'll do fine the whole week for remembering things, and then I come to do this. And
I'm telling you, cameras brainwash you.
it's the caffeine, I think. I just had too much caffeine today.
The caffeine brings it on you, man.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, what's the question?
The female pleasure movie. What was the pull away that you most remember about it?
Well, I think that it's a global thing. You know, that it's not.
It was cool to see the different.
Yeah, it's not just
a broad
here.
spectrum of everything. Honestly,
Like, I did highlight 5 women, but like that it's happening everywhere.
Absolutely.
Way more past them.
And it not to say that it's great here, but it's worse in some other places, you know, and there's a lot of things that are worse in other places and things that are worse here, but it's just interesting that it's happening everywhere and that there's a lot of movements that are happening just all over the world.
I agree.
I think that's nuts.
I'll go right
Awesome.
I'll go right into mine as well, just so we can keep on trucking.
Put a
My big pull away. I don't know what.
Who?
I don't know what English teacher you guys had in college, but Miss Miller.
Miller.
She I'm saying names. Oh crap. That wasn't
Miller
good.
wasn't the name.
Nope.
This was dubbed over.
Yeah, it wasn't the name. Totally. Well, I really liked the way that she taught the class because we had like an entire segment on essentially this. Like the minute that you brought up this movie, I was like, holy crap! That was I had an entire class pretty much based off of the over sexualized nature of just female society, especially in America, where it's constantly absolutely everywhere. The whole time in the movie, I was just saying like, this is so much like the class. This is I'm like they should have had this movie while we were in that class.
Well,
it would have been nice.
The people making that movie and your teacher are not the only people talking about this story. Like this is a
good.
very big story in our lives, and I'm glad. I mean, it's great that multiple people are talking about it explicitly because it's there all of the time.
I agree.
Oh yeah.
it was really cool. That whole entire course was, yeah, it was intense. It was very, very intense.
I would say from a personal point, being a young adult at that point, coming into college and having that kind of class, it did force me into that kind of role of thinking critically about that world. I think coming from a like small town and going into a college world and then just being like just exploded with information, like that class challenged me to think outside of what I normally thought.
I agree.
And I also agree. I think that movie would have been a perfect.
I think I got a weird life prep because I think in our first part of this rape culture series that we're doing, I talked about how in California I remember seeing plastered on a magazine rape culture. And it was the first time that I'd ever seen those two words actually like together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just like reading the mini article that they had, and this was in California. They like, I don't know, it like painted a picture for me. And I was just like, I guess like I have been seeing some like the party is just the way that people interact with each other. I'm like, it definitely wasn't a safe space. It was like no actual adults anywhere. It's like thousands and thousands of right out of high school kids just like doing whatever they felt was right. And right after that, I came back to Gillette and took that. Like, that was one of the first classes I took. So I felt like I had this weird life prep going into that class. And, yeah. Thank you for teaching that class.
Yes, Miss Teacher. Did you guys read the article? The Santa Barbara, it's the one that you sent us out in the email. The sex and rape in Isla Vista.
Mm-hmm.
That was a phenomenal article. But when you said just kind of like that partying culture and everything, I flashed back to reading that. Basically, going through college and the whole partying scene, and then not thinking about everything until hindsight. About like one line that stuck out to me the most was like seeing like is fatigue, the questioning of like if fatigue is really the embodiment of somebody having fun, like burning yourself out. Like if somebody's like super tired from that kind of party, it's just like was that healthy? And if anybody wants to read that article, it's Sex and Rape in Isla Vista, the Santa Barbara Independent. Basically, kind of encapsulates a person's experience going through college and like basically their sexual activities, their experiences with everybody dealing with the culture. And Santa Barbara, it's in
California.
California?
That's actually the same. That's the article that I saw. That's the first article I saw
for the rape
posted.
culture.
Yeah, that's the actual. That's the
cool.
actual
So
one
we
that I
hit
found you
right
guys.
on the
Yeah,
same note.
yeah, no, you're good. You were tangenting off of, but you were talking about the same thing.
You're like
You're talking about the
partying,
exact same
and I was
thing.
like, I read that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, that's the one I read because I mean, and I saw it firsthand. I got into town and it was just like everyone was getting with everybody. Like there was just openly doing drugs everywhere, which I was just like, oh, I'm in California. This is great. I'm 18 years old. Like great.
Yeah.
And then I read that article and I mean, I left pretty much like about a month or two later, like a month later. I didn't stay in that town for very long. I stayed there for a week because I didn't have anywhere to stay. I was literally hopping couches. I saw a lot of weird shit. Like, dude, down there, there's no housing regulations of how many people can live in a house. I think I already brought this up to you guys. So, in this one bathroom, I went to the bathroom at a person's house. Dude, there's like 13 toothbrushes in a cup. I was like, who's living here?
Somebody's bedroom is the
I'm like, do
bathtub.
these people just go sleep on the beach and then come to like take showers and shit, shower, and shave in somebody else's bathroom?
Dude, at least keep your toothbrush
Right?
in a separate
A little baggy.
thing. Like everybody's just like, yeah, that's the toothbrush cup.
Mine's also purple, but I'll pick this one.
Like mine's purple with the little squigglies on it, you know?
I don't
Just
trust that.
even-
I don't trust that toothpaste, that toothbrush cup at all.
That
Like,
cup?
I
No.
don't. My toothbrush does not feel safe in there.
If that gives you a glimpse into just how like what was going on there, it's just everyone was very intermingled,
Mm-hmm.
and
It
I
was
don't
just
know.
wrong.
I don't know if people realized what damage was going on with toothbrushes or otherwise.
Well, and that idea of there is some subjectivity. There's a lot of subjectivity within that idea of like, because I mean, and this comes back to stories. Like the stories we tell ourselves, those are our beliefs, and that is how we
Right.
experience our experiences happen through our stories. And so if your story, and nobody's story is necessarily right or wrong. Like it's just like this is your story and this is how you experience it. And so like that whole like subjective nature of any experience, like this experience for me For one person might be scary, but for another person that experience isn't
Yeah,
scary. That's
it's
exactly what
fine.
they want. They want their toothbrush to be commingled with 10 other toothbrushes. That's what they want. And they want, like, maybe they don't even use the same toothbrush every time. When they grab a toothbrush out of that cup, they just don't care. They just want a toothbrush. And for them, there's nothing upsetting about that experience. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
for sure.
that's totally fine. But for somebody else who is like, my toothbrush is not safe here. And that's not to, that doesn't open up any, like, it's not, don't place judgment upon, those other people, because for them it works. It doesn't work for you, that's okay. Then go be somewhere else. Like exactly.
And I did.
Exactly. That
I didn't
tension
stop
between
it,
like,
yeah.
because it can be very easy to be like, well, that makes their story wrong.
Oh,
But that's
exactly.
like really where you run into trouble, where it's like, but for them it's not.
Yeah,
That's their
you can make
story
as many
and it works for
assumptions
them.
about
Oh,
the
yeah.
people based off a toothbrush. You could start creating a whole monologue
Yes.
about. I'm sure I did monologue. My 18-year-old mind was like, "Oh my god, the savages."
No,
They're not. They're
whatever.
probably like I probably met a lot of them, and they're great people.
Yeah, if they don't care, I don't care. What they can do what they want with their toothbrush, you know.
I still want my toothbrush.
They're
tonight,
not
you know?
Yeah.
giving you the toothbrush.
So this is toothbrush talks,
Well, thank you for coming to
Wash your toothbrush.
Toothbrush talks. Wash your toothbrush.
or don't.
Brushing your
It's
teeth is
or
not
after
washing
your
your toothbrush.
prerogative.
After
Do brush
you
your teeth though.
after
like,
you get
regardless.
sick,
Yeah.
at least they're
That's
brushing their
probably a
teeth.
good
Yeah,
idea.
at least they're
Yeah.
brushing them.
Yes.
But after you get sick, like throw that toothbrush away, and
a
then
new brush.
just get a new toothbrush. That'll keep all you and your 13 friends safe. All of them.
Think about your 13 friends.
Think about your 13 friends in that cup. You might not even know all of them, but you're. Yeah.
Your toothbrush
you're-
does.
Your toothbrush. Oh, okay. All right. Moving on.
No.
Moving on.
I'm sticking right here.
No, staying right here. So we watched the trailer. I felt like going through toxic stuff, toxic traits before we went through like potentially more agreeable traits. Ending on a higher note with the traits might be.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you right there.
Yes.
Because traits are just traits. They are not
True,
toxic.
true.
Nor, there's no, they just are. The imbalance is where toxicity comes from.
I
If
agree.
it gets too extreme, if
Okay,
you have
I agree.
too
I
much
agree.
of something, because anything in too much is toxic. If you drink too much water, water
You
becomes
die in
toxic.
water death.
Anything there is, anything is just is what it is, and then the amount, the deviance from a balance is where then it does. Is it poison or?
Well,
is it
then
medicine?
that's a good topic point right there, because I was imagining that honestly we probably won't see much different between the traits themselves as we're going through all these.
The
It's
traits
just like
just are.
Yeah, the traits just
Yeah.
are. The traits just are. So maybe that's a good topic point right there. I mean, when you're looking at society in itself, I keep looking at the camera, and I changed this so I could look at you guys. So I'm just like, when we're out in society and we see people just doing certain things, I mean, whether they're putting all their toothbrushes in a cup or not, I mean, we make these assumptions based off of that. We give them these traits, and in a sense, calling like you were just saying, like whatever somebody wants to do, it isn't wrong.
Right.
When you start calling other people toxic, in itself, that is it's toxic. It's like this
Right.
perpetual. There's definitely other ways to. I'm trying to refocus in a sense of like if we're seeing somebody who is imbalanced or we're perceiving them to be imbalanced in that way, just something to think about of like how are we to, as a society, make that person understand that what they're doing is potentially harmful to others.
Yeah.
Searching for the moderation.
Because
trait.
in itself, us doing that like they're thinking that we're toxic.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, I think you like right there. You stated that the paradox that exists
Mm-hmm.
within that because you can't.
Okay.
There's nothing you can do, and so to me, like my answer to that question is you can show up as the best version of human that is possible. I mean, that is literally the only thing that you can do. You can show up in your kindness. You can show up in your love. You can show up accepting and kind and compassionate. That's what you can do. You can't do anything else.
Well,
and if you are trying to get someone else to believe something they don't believe, are you showing up as the best version of human? Are you showing
At
up
that
in your
point, you're being
kindness and your
toxic.
exactly? They're like
well, it's that idea of
paradox.
you really can't teach like someone who doesn't want to be taught.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I mean the whole reason why I wanted to start this channel to begin with is just to be able to have that space to talk.
Yeah.
keep the conversations going. Stop shutting down libraries, bro.
Absolutely. My dad has always, and my dad has always talked to me, like he's telling me what to do, but then he ends the whole conversation by telling me that it's my life.
Oh, Lord.
So it kind of feels like his mixed signals, because he's like, you got to do this, and also you got to figure this out. But, like, it's your life, so...
It feels like mixed signals because it is mixed signal. I'm going to validate you right now and say it feels like that because it is.
I could see
Right.
from like
I know what he really feels.
It's like-
Over years of getting that, I figured it out.
I know, like at first, I'm like, what? Brain hurt.
But those mixed messages, the cognitive dissonance that creates, and the like guilt and shame and all of those kinds of things, because it sends a message of, I accept you if you do this.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do this, then my acceptance of you is on the line, and that inherently is like that's conditional. That's conditional. Yeah, and when we can interact with each other from an unconditional place, like,
which is
magic
hard to
happens.
find unconditional. Definitely, everyone's got
Unconditional.
everyone's got their
hard line to
agenda.
find. And I feel like even from what his statements is like, if he ends it with that, then it's like, I will try to search for unconditional. Like,
well, like, he knows he's supposed to love you unconditionally. So he throws that in at the end. Like, I mean, like, I know technically you are your own person and you should be allowed to make your own decisions.
It's true. It seems like he's conflicted with himself on it.
Because he is, yeah.
But over the years, he's gotten a lot better with that. I mean, when I was very young, he was like, do this. But now he definitely just lets me do my thing. He doesn't invade my
to
life.
be a parent, absolutely.
Right.
I don't think
Hello.
75% of us in here.
Well, I mean, like, parents are learning how to do things
Welcome,
just
welcome.
like we are.
Got your seat right
Hello.
here.
Howdy.
No, you're good.
New people.
Welcome.
We're a little.
And the cat was on the door like this.
Yeah,
no,
that's his way of saying hello.
He's got to do his kitty pull-ups. He got to do his
Yeah.
kitty pull-ups.
He does that.
So we
every
have
time.
Miss Katie joining us
Welcome.
today. This is Miss Katie. Just wherever you want. We got a camera right there.
Yes.
We're very I'm bad with words today. I'm bad
Yeah.
with words
Just the
today.
majority of this is searching words.
We're calm around here. You could look wherever you want. Or look wherever you want.
Calm is good.
Yeah, between the multiple angles, it'll pick up like we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we spent a lot of time just now talking about the movie, the female pleasure movie that we sent out, and we were kind of just talking about pull-aways from that. We just kind of moved past that. And we're talking about masculinity and femininity. We actually haven't even gone into it yet.
No, we were just
It's
writing
very
that line between
tangential.
toxic traits and where that kind of balance is.
And the paradox between calling someone toxic and
Becoming
the
toxic.
fact that you calling someone toxic is also
Right.
toxic. So
But we've been
Yeah.
getting distracted by the cat and other topics that just I blurt out because I can't control myself.
Right. And that you can't remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
At that point, it's gone.
yeah, there's always a word just sitting there waiting for me to forget. But Miss Katie, this is Mikey,
Hi.
Nice to meet you, Katie.
and this is Tomo
Hello.
over in the
Hi.
corner over there,
And this is Tony.
and
Yes.
I'm Tony.
Mrs.
Met
Marie.
before, ever.
Katie and I have met.
We
I met the day she was born.
That's true.
I'm Thomas.
Hi.
Thomas. Thomas.
Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Nice
Yeah.
to meet
you, me.
Nice to meet me.
Nice to meet Mimi. So yeah, if we just wanna, I don't know, I didn't really have a specific plan with. I just kind of brought up the list just because I thought that it'd give us just good topic points. But with 5 people, I imagine we don't even need the list itself.
Yeah.
With masculinity, is there a specific topic point that you can think of in society where it is either misconstrued or is able to be more likely to segregate people?
Wow.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I was like, you just shoveled that one over here. Let's go with Midwest culture. The idea of picking yourself up by the bootstraps versus be who you want to be. The stronghold hold on tradition and like Midwest culture, what have you believe, like you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. You need to be manly. You need to knock it off, like, and just
put
keep
some
going.
dirt in it, bro.
Yeah, just keep going
Put the
forward.
dirt in it.
Throw your kid on a sheep and have him bounce around. Like,
Yeah, I was telling them about mutton busting because I went to the rodeo last night, Katie, for the first time in my life.
She found out.
Yeah, I knew I didn't like it.
Yeah, she
But
didn't
I
have
was
fun.
like, it's rude for me to say I don't like something when I haven't experienced it firsthand. So
Should
I went to
piggyback
the
on
rodeo, and it was major animal abuse.
Yeah.
Like and toxic masculinity, and like all of the things that we talk about.
Well,
played
and
out
late,
there.
because I drove through
Right.
the
These
Sturgis motorcycle rally.
How was that?
It was parasitic. It was. It's like you can't like. It's like they're everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't do anything about
Yeah,
it.
no, they're
They
everywhere.
just take like.
Were you just driving
parasitic.
through, or did you go to
No, I
the?
was literally driving on
Yeah.
the interstate.
Dang.
Driving 55 in the fast lane.
Because you have to
Being
give
like,
2 car
I don't know what's
space
going on.
between everybody.
I just don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know why I'm over here. I can't see. There's too much going on. I don't know what to do.
I've
I'm
actually
sorry.
never been to
What I
the
mean.
rally. I considered going to the rally when I was in 8th grade because I knew Cheech and Chong were going to perform.
You go.
And I was
that
in
would've
8th
been
grade.
worth it.
And I was in 8th grade, and I was
8th
like, I
grade.
probably shouldn't go.
Good
I had a
call.
ride and everything. I was like, I'm not gonna go. That
I
doesn't
saw
seem like a
Ted
good idea.
Nugent at the rally, and it was worth it. But I didn't have to drive myself at all. Like, it was literally like I rode in the car to get there. We parked somewhere. We got on the bus to get to like whatever the one is, like out of town. The
Buffalo chip?
It wasn't the Buffalo
Chip's
chip.
like
It
the
was the
high
other one.
one.
It's the one that burned down.
Oh.
That had the TV show.
I am clueless.
That was where it was,
Mhm.
and it was super cool. But there's no way I would drive. There's no way I would drive, and there's no way that I like. I also went with rally goers, like the
It was
crowd
just
there.
there was the concert goers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like we just wanted to see Ted
You know, at least
Nugent.
you're like you're in your element and not in that anxiety-inducing.
Well,
hell of a
yeah,
highway.
it's a very like, I don't know, and it's mostly like accountants and doctors and lawyers and
Like,
people that
finally
just
getting that time
pretend to be bikers for a
Mhm.
week. Like that's a lot of
Like
what it is.
what was that the wild hog vibes?
Yeah,
Wild hog
they, like,
vibes.
dust off the coats after 40 years. And
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like this free pass for debauchery. Like you live your life like according to the rules, like all year
midlife
long,
spring
and then
break.
you yeah, it's grown up spring break.
It's grown up
Yeah.
spring break.
That
We,
just that reminds me of like Rumspringer or like bachelor parties where it's just like some people literally go for the idea of like literally anything goes.
Yeah, the
on your-
hangover.
yeah.
It's like
It's
yeah.
so interesting.
Knockout brawl, yeah. Last year we were driving to Aberdeen in South Dakota, like so we drove through all of that. But it was an interesting twist of like the COVID like happening at the same time.
Oh, cool.
So it was packed, but everyone had masks on. But
In
you're
Sturgis?
still
Well, yeah, you remember Sturgis last year, where it was like, guys, this is a terrible idea.
Like, everyone's
But
like-
people that go to Sturgis
Yeah.
are like, you're not gonna tell us what to do. Which
I know.
on the one hand I respect, but
Oh,
on
they
the
definitely
other
had that
I'm
mentality,
like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
guys, this is a
Yeah,
good
we
idea.
were driving through just to get to A and B and then B back to A, so it was like duck and cover the whole time, like an 8-hour drive. I feel your pain.
We're going through that same thing right now. I keep seeing all the news outlets. I don't watch the news very much, but my entire Facebook feed is just like doctors talking about the Delta variant and just like, dude, it's just that all of them are like, dude, we're at this point where it's actually almost worse than it was last year, but it doesn't like
But
it's
people
not
just
as like
stop
publicized
caring.
now. They're like, dude, we want to go to concerts. Ah!
They will have the
Wow.
concerts though, like humans are.
I want to go to
are
concerts
at it.
too. Like I'm with you, but
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, like
band-
Primus. We're gonna
Can
go
we
to
go to
Primus
Primus?
Yes.
to cover the Rush album.
I
yeah, Tom and I are
don't
gonna
want
do
to
that.
miss that.
I really don't want to miss that. Like,
Speaking of concerts,
I would get the Delta variant to go see Primus.
Thomas, you
there's still tickets for sale. Like,
computer
you can
loading.
make
He's
that
like,
happen.
I was debating whether or not I really would get the Delta variant to go see Primus, and I ended up deciding I would.
the fun fact is that we've seen Primus before, so it's like not one of those like it probably will be good. It's like no, it will be good. Yeah, no, it's totally be worth it.
No, Primus sucks. Primus sucks.
man.
It freaking sucks.
Yeah.
But rodeos.
Yeah, rodeos.
So if you didn't
They're
know,
a
this
thing.
segment is actually called Tangent Talks. So
We're
so
basically
it-
put a safety blanket over
yeah,
our
we're good.
gas tree.
We're good. We have a pass. All right, we can talk about
There
whatever
is,
we
yeah.
want.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think as far as masculinity and the idealism of it for Midwest culture, for me, is like that standard alone is that you're at such a young age. I think the sheep thing was just a good example of, like, as a kid, you're getting thrown into it, and that's the lifestyle that you know from a young age. So if you leave and you see a whole different side, you're still going to hold on to that true belief, and you carry that masculinity and that toxicity.
The inability to, like, just not having access to your own emotions almost. It's just like, oh, you're crying, like, stop.
Well, that rugged individualism, like, that's another word to put on it here in this part of the world, where it's like, and there's nothing wrong with individualism. There's also nothing wrong with collectivism. It's like you need both of them at the same time. It's that, like, that putting one on a pedestal so far above the other, that, like, where we were talking about with balance, where it's like toxicity is an imbalance. That's what it is. And so nothing is good or bad. It's, do we have too much? Do we have not enough? Is where the issues come in.
Right.
Because there is some really big worth in being able to, especially compartmentalize your emotions, and then in the time that you need to be strong physically, have that.
Right.
Totally have that. But if you don't deal with the other aspect of, like, man, that was tough, I need to talk about this. If you don't talk about it for 40 years, of course you're going to feel conflicted, because you haven't talked about the fact that you have worked hard, and you should have that appreciation for yourself and how hard it was.
Well, you need to be able to take care of yourself and also let someone else take care of you. Like, it's yes and. It's both. It's not like a question of which one. It's a both. Always both.
And I mean, that touches on ideas of, I mean, why Wyoming has some of the highest suicide rates ever, especially with males around here. I mean, most of the guys, I'm not going to generalize saying labor jobs, but, like, labor jobs around here have a way higher percentage than any other job, especially for, like, middle-aged men. And a lot of times you'll meet them, they're very stoic, very, like, strong individuals, but to get them to talk is a whole nother issue. Having a conversation, and I mean, just a few friends that I have who have full families and they are working labor jobs, they feel like the whole world's on their shoulders a lot of times. I mean, they're working 80-hour weeks. Who wouldn't? Working 80 hours out in the field. That's a lot. That's tough.
And then their counterpart, the woman that's at home, feels like she's carrying the entire world on her shoulders because she's taking care of the kids all the time, and she's processing all of the emotions for everyone. And neither one of those situations is a good situation to be in. And so it's like this idea of, we're going to polarize it, and you do all of this and I'm going to do all of this. That's, to me, where the problem lies, where it's like, no, you, man, also need to process your emotions and spend time with the kids and do that part of it. And you, woman, also need to, like, what are you do, like it needs to be both for both people. Like, this makes me think of a podcast that I listened to not too terribly long ago, that can I say the podcaster's name? Like, is
yeah.
So
That's public information.
Okay, cool.
I was wrong saying my teacher's name. She's public information, but
yeah,
I definitely said my teacher's name.
This podcast is called Mycadelic, is the name of the guy's podcast, and he's stepped into the world of men's work, like doing like men's work. And so he was having a conversation with two other gentlemen, and this is what they do. They do men's work. They do coaching for men, and they do like retreats and things for men. And one of, like, to me, the most powerful thing that was stated in this conversation, the thing that resonated with me, stuck with me the most, was one of the gentlemen made a statement about this, about how there's this expectation upon women that the women are responsible for processing the emotions. And he was like, guys, no, like, you as a man are just as responsible for processing emotions as a woman is for processing emotions. Like, this is not. And so to me, like, that, like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with masculinity. There's nothing wrong with any of those traits of, like, strength and, like, cognition and being analytical and, like, whatever qualities you want to put that label on, because that's just language. It's just semantics. It's not right or wrong. It's when you identify only with that it becomes problematic, because you are all of the things, every single one of us. Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I'm only feminine. I am feminine and masculine, and it's this separation that causes like only identifying with the feminine. Like, as a woman, you have to figure out, how do I identify with my masculine? And being in relationship with men is a big part of, like, identifying that what masculinity is, and seeing how a man interacts with his masculinity. And then the opposite is true for a man having that experience of relating to a woman and being able to come into their femininity through relationship with women. But it's not like only women can do that or only men can do that. We all can do both of it, but we, that, like, it's like a dance.
So my friend Anna couldn't be here, but we've talked about this a lot, about how not only is it, women's jobs to, the emotional thing, whatever, how that's compartmentalized. But then when a man does get in touch with his emotions, how we as women react to that sometimes and being like, oh my God, ew. Like,
absolutely.
Because it's true. That does happen. That is part of it. And so I think it also goes hand in hand of, like, men having to do the work of getting in touch with their feminine, but also being responsive
women being
to
comfortable with it.
And vice versa, of course. Men being comfortable with women stepping into their power, which I think we talk about a lot more than the adverse reactions we sometimes have to men stepping up into their emotions.
Brene Brown tells that beautiful story about a man that comes up to her. I think it's Brene Brown, right? Where she's like, she's written this book and he's wanting to get the book signed for his daughters, and he's like sharing with her, like, if I step down off of my white horse, the judgment that I am going to feel, like, you're telling me to just show up and be authentic. But let me just tell you that these women in my household, if I show up and I be authentic, they are going to be disappointed. They are going to be like, wait, but we thought you were our rock. And like that kind of tension.
Because we're both playing these roles.
Can you bring the mic just a little bit closer? No, you're good.
Yes, I'm sorry.
You're being polite with the mic. You're good. You can eat it.
Okay.
I just wasn't picking up very much. I'm like, I'm turning it up. I'm like, oh,
okay.
just a little bit closer.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, I think seeing how we all step into those roles and having to step out of the traditional roles both ways and meet each other halfway, I guess is what I'm thinking
having
about
the ability to do that. I was thinking about that while you were talking too. A lot of people, if they grow up in a family, not to generalize, again, we were talking before this of like the kids being thrown on sheep. If there's that mentality all the time of just like throwing your kids into these like situations that could be extremely dangerous for them, they might have fun at a certain point, but if you grow up and you start putting your problems onto your parents, which granted, if you're throwing your child on a sheep when they're 5 years old, there might be some psychological damage that you give your child. There might. Not to say that you shouldn't give your child the opportunity to push themselves.
If they really want to.
To jump on a sheep. Yeah, if they want to jump on a sheep, let them jump on a sheep, I guess. But
I don't know. Keep going.
But if you are blaming your parents for so many things through your life, I think it is really hard. Like, I was very fortunate to be able to have parents that I could talk about certain things with, and I was able to take accountability for my actions a lot, like at a very young age. In some households, if there isn't even like a general conversation, then sometimes taking that accountability, especially as an adult, it becomes you just find that scapegoat constantly. So whether you are adhering to whatever traits you have, the toxicity of them lies in the fact that you can't take accountability for what you're even doing to begin with. And I was thinking about that while you were talking, and I felt like it related. But
the lack of ability for people to talk to each other about these things I think is where a lot of these problems come from. Because if you're brought up your whole life, you're like, we don't talk about that. You never will, and you never will learn to see things from a different perspective. So I think that if we all just talk to each other more, it would.
I agree, and it's also understanding the situations where you'd actually benefit from talking about your story. It's giving yourself that ability, whether it's on the basic level of like talking to a counselor, which Marie is in school for right now, or just finding the friends. I mean, the time and place to talk about certain things. I mean, if you're out with 15, 20 people, it might not be in your best interest to just like start bringing up all your like big problems. Right. For one, you're bringing a lot of I shouldn't say a setting like you're in a bar. If there's 20 people, you're in a bar, everyone's drinking, talking about some really heavy topics, unless it is like you think it would be beneficial, you're with people you trust. That's a lot of different ideas that could be pushed upon you if you are in a vulnerable space. And I know a lot of people who do that.
Thank you.
You'll go into like a very vulnerable situation. You'll go out to the bar and people just like say their entire story, and then all of a sudden they're confused because they're getting all this like feedback, or just like people being like, this is just not the time and place to talk about this, and then you feel invalidated because you didn't talk to people you trust. Just to find people that you trust, and you can invest the time in with those people. Yeah.
Going on the thought of like not talking to each other or not being able to talk to each other, I had this interaction with my partner where it was like, well, I can't know that thing if you don't tell me. Like, I cannot read your mind. And he said, I don't know how to say it. I don't have the words to say this without feeling stupid or feeling ashamed.
Willingness to be feel stupid.
Yes.
Like, that's a big part of it. Like, it's like, okay,
shame.
just go ahead and feel stupid. Like, I'm here with you. I support you.
That's what I
just
told-
say
yes.
it, and it's okay if it feels stupid.
Yes.
Like, just say it anyway.
But I think that's so true. If you've literally never said, this is how this is making me feel, how, like, to be
It's like practice,
27
man.
Right, exactly.
So that's why I like
Exactly.
art, because honestly, the first thing I teach my students is like, be prepared to feel as uncomfortable as you've ever felt in your life, because you will be on
Build
stage
within
and
that
you're
comfort.
going to mess up. You will mess up every time. But I think that'll open up the opportunity to, like, you know what, I've messed up. Like, why not talk to this person and say what I'm thinking?
Right.
Because you know what, the worst that could possibly happen is them being like, oh, that's weird, you know?
Well,
and then
yeah.
you work off that. You work
Right.
off how you feel. He can't know what you're gonna think.
No.
You probably didn't think he was.
But he has gone over it a million times.
Yeah,
But
you
he can't know
monologue.
until-
Everyone
yes.
monologues, totally.
Yep, exactly.
I'll just blurt something out. If I start feeling weird, I'll tell my partner, I'm like, I can't control myself, so I'm just like, I just say it. I'm like, bam, done. It's over with. I feel better. You feel better too.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like, if you haven't done a lot of that
Absolutely.
stuff before, just talking, you might feel stupid while you're saying it. You totally will, because
you
you don't have the words for it.
and that's okay. But the thing that I think it comes back to those stories that we tell each other or tell ourselves. Like, we tell ourselves this story, and it's this very like egocentric story of like, we have this belief that we are the only ones that have felt this feeling.
Mhm.
And until you challenge that, you really believe it, and you believe it until you don't believe it anymore. And then once it gets challenged enough, like, it comes from the willingness to step into an uncomfortable space, because it's like, that is it's a paradoxically shared experience. But when you're having the experience, you really believe you're the only one that's
Right.
ever felt this way.
And so when I think of my partner having that experience of, I literally don't know the words to use to express how I feel, that's not a him problem solely. That's
a society problem.
that's
Yeah.
almost
Right.
everybody else too, is in the same boat.
Absolutely.
On the monologuing, I find myself monologuing more when I'm dealing with people I genuinely just like, they like, something about them like ticks me, and I just like, dude, all this monologues so hard. I'm like, Tony, stop. Like, you're creating stories that they do not exist. Like,
Yeah.
I might not want to talk to that, and that's where I struggle. It's like, if I can't talk to somebody because I know that I can't know. I can't know if I try talking to them again, it won't get better. But I know that my boundary is I don't want to invest that
Right.
energy into that person. Man, like, that's where toxicity lies. Like, I'm sitting there making myself toxic because I know that I don't want to deal with this person, and my unwillingness to deal with somebody, it's making me toxic. I'm turning into a cesspool of toxicity because I'm just like, man, you just pissed me off so bad. And there's toxicity
It's
right
easy
there.
to
You
end
sit
up
there and
there
monologue for years and
sometimes.
years.
I think we have a more like comfortability with ignorance, not ignorance, but like ignoring things. Like if you ignore it, it'll go away. Or
Yeah.
like, you just give it space. It's fine. I don't have to have.
That
a
is one of the
confrontation.
most like pathological ideas that exist. Like, they're like really, like, how does that even?
I don't think anyone
There's
really believes
no
it.
logic in that.
I don't think
like,
anyone
guys, like,
really
that
believes
if I
it.
just ignore this, it's like, how do you think that's gonna work out? Like, let's talk about that. Like, in the space of material space. Like, if I just ignore that stain on my carpet,
It's just gonna manifest.
it's not going to be there anymore. No, it's definitely still there in real space.
After a while, man, that just turns into hyperfixation. It's like hyperfixation away from what your problems are. And it's like, I'm
Yeah.
so hyper-focused on not the problem.
That you're consumed
Yeah.
with the
Yeah,
problem.
exactly. So even if you fix whatever you're focused on, you're like, I feel incomplete. I don't know what it is. I do, but like I don't, you know?
I don't want to say it.
I will say though that a couple shows that I've played, there is the choice drunk man who comes around and says a bunch of nonsense to me, and I do ignore him, and he goes away eventually.
Okay,
So
fine.
it
Sometimes
does work
works.
in
You're
some
right.
situations.
You're right. Sometimes I should never
haven't
make
banned.
those gross generalizations. Like there's always the exception to the rule. There, absolutely.
That keeps the balance.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes this is true. Right. Yes.
The educated silence, the intentional silence. You're like, you know what? If I say any words, this is just gonna make the situation worse. So I'm just gonna be quiet.
I just don't know what to say.
I know the feeling too, Thomas. Like I have those moments where you're just like,
And putting yourself on stage and stuff, people are just like, I want to interact with that.
Yeah.
And you're just like, don't have the time. Like,
Yeah, like I don't.
Well, there's a certain interaction that we all, especially on stage, we like prepare ourselves for. But then people very much. I remember at the Downtown Festival. I don't know her name, so I can't even say her name. Cause I can't just blurt it out. We were sitting on the stage. We're not the band. We were running sound. And as the band was like getting ready and stuff, she makes a request. She's just like, blah 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 blah. Like, I want this song. I was just like, I'm not the band. I'll have the band talk to you if you really want the song to be played. And she's like, yeah, that'd be cool. My friend just died. And I'm just like,
Well, okay, but
seriously, I was like,
jeez.
Oh.
But music is spiritual. Music
Oh,
is
dude,
emotional.
it is.
So you guys are stepping
Yeah.
into emotional space. Like
Oh.
when you have people that are emotionally invested in you guys as a
Yep.
group, if they know you or whatever band it is that is performing, and so it's like you don't have that emotional investment in them.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like you don't have that emotional investment in that drunk guy. So it's easy to just like whatever. It's when you're emotionally invested in somebody, that's when you can't just ignore it and it's gonna go away. You know,
Oh,
'cause
absolutely.
it's gonna stay there in your life. But like I think it's really interesting that you bring that up, Tony. That experience of being, because you're not emotionally invested with that person that's standing in front of you on
No.
the stage, but that person is emotionally invested in you.
well, and I'm curious where her. Obviously, that's a further investigation of like where her wants, like where her emotional state lies. Obviously, if her friend, if she's using that as a scapegoat, like if her friend really didn't die and she's going up there and using that as an excuse to have this bigger emotional attachment to what we're doing, ouch. But like if there's something actually going on, you are right. Music and art in general, just it's always going to be an emotional space. I feel like everyone should put themselves in that situation though too.
Well, and I think also as performers, like it's important for you to recognize with the appropriate amount of reverence what it is that you're meddling in for people. Like you have with your music the ability to really impact people's lives and bring them into places that bring them into vulnerable places. Like the amount of potential abuse that exists, like I have never thought about this in the context of like the music industry, but that is huge. There's huge potential for abuse within that.
That's why there's so much
Yes.
money into it, because it's just it is emotionally taxing on the people performing. It's emotionally taxing on the people. I mean, you go to festivals, you'll see 40,000 people. There's a reason why there's 40,000 people there,
Yes.
because people feel this connection.
Yes.
Whether it's spiritual, whether it's just an emotional attachment.
Whatever
I don't know.
word you want to put on
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. The word that you put on it, that feeling is there, that experience is there. And as the musicians, you guys are in a position of power over the people that you are performing in front of.
Well,
And you absolutely have opportunity to take advantage of it.
It's that timeless issue for musicians on stage. It's just that guy who's always gonna be like, "Play Freebird," and
I was gonna bring that up, yeah.
because it has become a moderate joke over the years. And I mean, most times, like a band downtown actually was just like, "Since we didn't get asked to do this, we're actually gonna play Freebird tonight." And I was just like, they killed it too. I was just like, Freebird's a hard song. For one, like it's not an easy song. It doesn't make sound good. It's a hard song. But
yeah,
there's a hard moment within that line. I think of like being on stage. I was watching a concert and it was Tool. This is back in like 1996, but throughout every single song there was that guy. He was like, "Play Third Eye," and they ignored him. Like every single song, it's like, "Play Third Eye." You just hear it and it's awkward and you feel for him. And then he leaves, and then they play Third Eye, and it's like, but he was that guy. He was the
dude.
Louder than everyone. He was getting in their space. They had like something designed, and he was just like, "Do this for me," and then like out of not pettiness. I don't know what it was, but you could just tell they were like, he's gone. All right, do the song.
I don't like that.
I've been there though.
That
at the
feels
same
mean.
time,
It's,
it does
it's
feel
a
mean.
hard place to be for sure.
I've been that asshole though. At the same time, I don't like I wouldn't do that now, but I've done that before to two people in the audience, and it's just because back then I felt like I had put so much work into this, and they're just yelling stuff at me, and that was why
there is a certain
way.
certain level of emotional detachment I've had to find while I'm on stage, especially if on tour. It becomes just like, if I am so emotionally attached to every show, I'm gone. I cannot possibly do shows where I am constantly worried about the audience the entire time, or worried about how if I'm thinking about the reason why I wrote every single one of my songs, I'd probably be wrecked by the end of the show. I just sometimes just have to do it. Otherwise, I'm just like, oh, my brain, that was a lot.
Right, you also get
heavy.
to the point between every single audience that
Yeah.
there's a group of people that think that you owe it to them.
Oh, definitely.
To do the thing that they have attachment to.
That's probably my biggest thing is, like, someone comes up after the show and they really enjoyed it. I'm like, man, if you enjoyed us that much, you should be playing music too. You should be doing the exact same thing. And if you need someone to jam with, especially with the level we're at, we don't have thousands of people following us. Like, come jam with us. Like, I have never felt better in my life till I found a group of people I could genuinely just, like, connect with on that level. And when we get on stage, it makes me sad to think that other people who are enjoying us think that they don't have that, like, within their reach. Like, I'm telling you, it's a lot of work. If you're going to sit there and play music or get an art style, just a part of your life, it's sitting in your room for hours a day, driving yourself insane.
Between any type of expression.
Yeah, any type of actual emotional expression, it's taxing. It's tiring. Do it, though.
Do it.
Do the work. Do the work.
I think that
Tangent talks. Yeah.
We can go long on this. I don't really care myself, as long as everybody can be here for however long. I don't know. But I just want to say to finish that out, it's okay for people to like want to request things, or they really feel attached to the music. I just don't like hecklers, is what I'm trying to say a second ago. Because there's a difference. I think.
A perfect example is if you know the artist Bo Burnham.
Oh yeah.
He just did his own special from his house, and like that kind of drew from.
I love it.
Doing
So
live
good.
shows and having to deal with people. And he was like, screw it, I'm going to do a special where it's my idea and it's in my own space.
When he talks about it, he's like, I had to take 5 years off because I was having panic attacks on the stage, whether it was from the hecklers or just the social pressure behind doing something like that. Yeah, that was nutty.
It was I think a phenomenal example of someone just like almost having that like snap where it's like, I need to do this by myself. Like,
Well, it's easy if you start focusing on what everyone else wants, especially like I can't even imagine like a Red Rock show. You have thousands and thousands of people. You couldn't possibly even probably meet that many people. But if you're constantly trying to put yourself in their shoes, then it's just you're gonna lose yourself so hard. It becomes if you take on the emotions, if you try to take on the emotions of that many people, it just
definitely say it, but dabble in it. Definitely try to empathize.
Well, it's that balance.
People.
I mean, it's both. It's having healthy boundaries. It's being able to like not get to the point where your emotions are so compartmentalized that you no longer have access to them.
Exactly.
But there's enough of like a wall to it to where you know where you begin and some like where you end and someone else begins, to where you know that.
Yep.
Right.
And to a certain extent, I don't know how much fame people, that's a whole nother issue, but just the amount of fame that we give artists and the people who teach us our emotions. I mean, you look at some of the greats, most of like the big people end up doing heroin like later in their lives, and they die from it because they're just like, I just need to feel nothing. This is just so much emotion, I cannot possibly deal with it, because there's not a right and wrong way. I personally don't know what that feels like to be playing shows for 40,000 people every single time you play, and people latching onto every single word. It's gotta feel. I don't know. You definitely have to like separate yourself a little bit from something like that. Not a clue. Not a clue.
I read a story recently of that kind of separation, but it was forced. There was a influencer on TikTok who was 14 years old, and her mother deleted her account when she had reached like a million followers. She was like, this is affecting my kid. Like, getting the gratification of a million people who don't know you at such a young age. Like, I need to stop this. And, like, I say good call from a
Honestly.
parenting standpoint. There is, like, you're an individual and you're allowed to make your own self and, like, express, but, like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into at that point. Like,
It's a very hard call to make on that.
taking that kind of control away from somebody, but that is your kid. I can empathize with the mother more than the child, but that had to happen in today's society where, like, we're so easily we can put ourselves out there so easily and get that much influence. Like, it affects the psyche, but at such a young age, I think that kind of intervention is necessary.
So, like, I told you guys that I went to church this morning. So this was a weird weekend for me where I went to, I know, right,
Like,
sister?
You went to the rodeo. You went to
I
church.
went to the rodeo and I went to church this morning.
Okey-dokey.
It was a weird.
Church in Hettinger?
Yes, they got a new pastor. He's from India.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
I've heard good things.
Really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but he was talking.
That's
Are
a
you
great
guys
Midwestern, like, conversation.
I've heard
Me
things.
too.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That literally just reminded me of my
Tangents,
brother. Where there's
right?
like, are you
Yeah.
two brothers from Nether Roxbury? No. Yes.
So Katie and I might be sisters in that way. Yeah, it's true. But
But please.
regardless, in the sermon this morning, he was talking about our devices, and he was talking about how, like, when you let it control you, that's not a good place to be. Like, that's not healthy. That's not safe. When you're just, like, consumed by this thing, when you're just, like, scrolling, when you're just, like, watching mindlessly. But if you enter into a relationship with your device on a conscious level and you use it as a tool, and
Right.
you that there's nothing wrong with it. It has beautiful capacity to connect with other people as long as you have those healthy boundaries in place. So that's what came up for me in sharing that, is that, like, to me, I feel like that was extreme potentially.
It is on the
And that's very much like a violation of her child's autonomy. Because, like, yes, this is your child, but your child is not your child. They are their own person.
Right.
They came here on to this planet via you, but that doesn't mean you get to own them. That doesn't mean that they are yours to control and manipulate and those kinds of things. Like, but I think some people do believe that is how it works.
Right.
So I think, like, it's not, to me, it's not, oh, this is bad for you and so we have to get rid of it. It's how do we engage in this in a healthy way? If this is
Having
hurting
that
you.
conversation.
Yes. Okay. Well, how
like
do
you
we?
were just saying is like, if she's the influencer, how can you mitigate the ways in which she is influenced by the people? who
Yes,
are-
exactly. When I think of
We're 14
Billie
years old, it's
Eilish, we
hard.
have Billie
Right.
Eilish. I mean, like the content, the art that she produces is very like it creates strong emotions in people. The art that she does. But, like, I've read 3 of her biographies at work now, and I am, like, so astounded by the level of boundariness that she has as a human in her personal life. And, like, and I think that's part of why she is able to create the kind of art that she
paradox,
creates,
right?
because she is so safe in her relationships with her family and with herself. And, like, that's what allows her to go to these, like, really visceral places that people connect with so deeply. But, like, she knows who she is. Like, and she's perfectly
vulnerable
and
in the
she's-
right places. She's
Exactly.
vulnerable in the right places.
She can be vulnerable in a safe way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. It's not like this idea that, oh, vulnerability is dangerous. It's vulnerability is important. It is,
Super
like,
important.
crucial, but you need to be safe in your vulnerability. That like paradox of it.
It goes back to that idea of just our society, at least like what he said, Midwestern. It's just like, pull up by the bootstraps. You got to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know how to mitigate or delegate your life with other people, if you can't live your life with other people and understand how much they mean to you and how much you mean to them, I mean, shit. Like, that's you're probably brewing toxic. You're brewing probably hateful vibes just within yourself, of just not feeling like you can't trust in other people.
Well, and maybe you have good reason to not trust in other people, because there are plenty of people that don't have safe, that are not vulnerable in safe spaces. Like, I think of that what you said about someone coming into the bar and like just like laying it all out there. I mean, like this is an example of the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
That it's like there's this desire to share and be seen and be vulnerable, but there's a lack of knowing of where is it appropriate to do where not even appropriate, that's not the right word, but just like where am I safe in doing this?
Exactly.
And not knowing where. And that some of that comes from probably having experiences of this in unsafe places, and so then that becomes what you're used to. That becomes how you think this is what your story is being vulnerable in unsafe places.
This is more of a personal pull on that. I think the places that I found safe, that type of stuff happened in my later life once I became less self-absorbed and I started taking an interest in other people. Once I did that and people saw that I was genuinely interested in them, then I was in a safe space then to finally share my story. Because if you go into a situation, whether it's socially or within your own personal life, and you are constantly pulling for someone to look at me, like, hey, look at me, like it's all about me, then you don't give other people the chance to feel like you even really care. It's just more of like, oh, they're just wanting to unload this on me. A lot of people will have that boundary. I have that boundary now. If someone's trying to unload stuff on me, I got enough to deal with. If I don't know somebody, if I see that they're hurting, I'm gonna like give them advice maybe, but to be actually emotionally invested in somebody, you have to also be willing to, it's got to be that balance that we're talking about. You can't just constantly think in a social setting that everyone's gonna help you. You have to also, I mean, help yourself, but you have to be willing to help others as well. I don't know, I was looking at the camera for that. I keep going back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, acknowledge you.
I said you. I said you. And I was just the royal you. My cat is being so damn cute right now, dude.
He
like
was
he's
an a-hole earlier.
I know he's just a little buff.
He was just a different kind of cuteness.
Yeah. Claws and all.
It was a different kind of cat.
Oh, my little Dean. Such a sweetie.
I wanted to piggyback off of that too, because I have a core memory, and this is years ago now when we
core memory unlocked.
Core memory. We were walking across a bridge opposite directions, and we had that like standard like, hey, how are you doing? Good.
God, the hi, how are you people?
Yes, this was one of my favorite moments, like with Tony, which kind of solidified my like this guy. It was like we kind of both stopped. You're like, do you have a second? Like, I got shit I have to unload, man. Like, it wasn't that standard like. Good. All right, talk to you later. And you do that with 70,000 people a day, but like that one moment was like, you got a second? It's like, yeah, man, I gotta say some shit. Like that stuck.
Well, me and Mikey is just like, I think people perceived us to be such happy people, but when we got together, it's like we were like the saddest like sacks ever. We'd take a walk and we're just like unloading so hard. I was just like, man, this is our relationship. Everyone's just like, you're so happy. It's like, oh, this is our time.
Tired of being
it's our
happy.
time.
Yeah, no, that was like one of those like. Sorry, that was one of those random like happenstances where like you find somebody that's like, you get it, cool. I can actually like alleviate all this stress, especially coming from a point of like just like you being constantly positive for other people's sake. When you finally have that person that's like, you need to talk. It's like, yeah, I need to talk. Like, holy crap, I got this week. I just need to talk about this like week. That's it. I think there was a talking point that we were going to be moving into, and we were talking about people kind of taking away energies from you, like for their own personal gain. And one of our talking points is like how much we label things. And the label that came to mind was like energy vampires. Those type of like specific people that need to take away your time and like your positivity to make themselves feel better. Tony's the exact opposite of that with each other. Like that's a weird tangent. But the labeling point was where I was getting at, like, that we have a name for, like, every specific type of thing, and that's an odd one for me that resonates, is when you meet that specific kind of person that just sucks it out of you. And the environment that we were in, like, it was kind of floating all over the place, but when we would meet up, it was that kind of, like, recharge.
It was a recharge moment, definitely. I agree. I remember explaining the I call them hi, how are you people, or hi, how are you moments, where it's just, I started like monologuing in my head in college because we just passed people in the hallways, teachers, whatever. I imagine it's just like, what if like they said, "Hi, how are you?" and you just like threw up, like projectile vomited,
became
like
that person,
exorcism crazy, and then I'll be like, "I'm not doing so good," and they'd probably just keep, they'd just be like,
Just
"Oh,
be
that's great, man. You have a good day."
He was like, I was not expecting that.
Just projectile, like I'm obviously not okay contextually, and they're just like, "Oh, he's hi."
How's
Later.
it going? I got a meeting.
I'm sure that's not how it'd be, but oh my lord, it just
That is interesting, though, that's the story that you told yourself.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the story.
that was how you perceived
I was
it.
just like, these people don't.
Because
obviously
I
don't care.
honestly think most people, now I'm sure there are people that are literally so self-absorbed in their own, like when they're asking this question, they have zero desire to hear how you're
Yes.
actually doing. But I think most people, like, if you were to say, you know what, I'm not okay.
Like, I need a
Most
moment.
people would respond with that with a little bit of surprise, and then they would say, "Can I help you? Like, what do you need?
I agree-
Like,
I
can
agree.
So I find it to be very interesting that this was the story you were telling yourself.
It was just
that
I
if
know it was the
told
comical
them-
side of me.
I don't even know
Definitely.
that I'd say it's comical. I think it just speaks to the frame of mind that you were in, where you were like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't deserve to take up anybody's time. Nobody, I won't get it. Even if I asked for it, I wouldn't get it.
Contextually, I was that was panic attack, Tony. I was having panic attacks back in like beginning of college. Like I didn't have that support group. I just got back from California. I was older than everybody, and the whole entire college. Not the whole entire college. Just in the choir, man. I felt very, very alone. Honestly, I felt super alone. So I'm glad that these two stuck around. I mean, it's nutty that
I
we
don't
have
know
so many
you.
of the choir people that actually just stuck around.
I think it's interesting, like, going off of what you were saying and talking earlier about how, like, I wouldn't even know how to ask for what I needed. Like,
Exactly.
people are asking me how I am, and all I say is good. Because that's the
Even
only
though
thing
I know it's
even though
not
I'm
true.
not.
Oh yeah.
But I
Of
can't
course.
even tiptoe on finding out what that would actually be like. And
I-
so I think it ties in, and with Chris, or with my partner, too, being like, I don't know how to say these things. I don't know how. And so then never doing it.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting seeing in a social setting, like, to be so confident, but also not impose on people. Like, in a social setting where it's just, like, 10 people you kind of know, and it's just like, oh, so, like, how are you? And, like, you're in, like, a networking scenario. It's like,
Sure.
I mean, I toy with that idea where I'm just like, I'm exhausted and wonderful. Where I'm just like, I'm balanced, but I'm stressed the hell out.
I
And-
think that's a perfect
Yeah.
response. So I think that's an honest
Yeah.
response.
Right.
Yeah.
That tends to be how, because like there's paradox. Like I'm good, I'm alive, all of my needs are met,
I'm
like
not bad.
everything is okay. But at the same time, I'm like spiraling out of control with like, yeah.
Well, I think it would break the ice better than any of
Oh,
the
yeah.
other, like,
Yes.
Yeah.
icebreaker type.
I'm
of,
not
like,
good at networking situations
activities.
until people are like, that was kind of weird, but like I get it. Like I get it though.
I think
Pass,
that's
fail,
beautiful.
success.
I think that's like when you asked the question earlier about like how do we get people to like, I think that right there, showing up in the world honestly and authentically, that is how we get other people like converted or whatever you want to do, because
Exactly.
it like validates that experience in them. Like you're like willing to be like, yeah, I'm not okay. And then that person across from you can be like, oh, thank God we're not doing this.
Right.
Like, I'm not
No,
okay either.
exactly.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about like this experience that you had with Mikey where you're like, I'm not okay. And he's like,
Okay.
thank God you're not okay. I'm not okay either. Can we talk about this now?
I've seen
Yeah.
a weird evolution of the fine, like I'm good, how are you type things, like the living the dream. Like,
Living the
whatever
dream.
things, Like people
There's
mix
that
it
joke
up.
on Facebook. Was like
Yeah.
every white male who says living the dream is not
Really
living the
living
dream.
Not
He is
living-
not living
oh
the
my
dream.
God,
I
not
can
living the
guarantee
dream.
that.
Yeah. Living the dream. but
It's almost
like-
meant to tell you that they're
They're
not.
not
It's a
living
code.
the
Yes,
dream.
Yeah,
it
Like,
it's like, dude,
so
I'm
we thought
dying
there was
inside.
this dream that was attainable, and we've realized that's a scam. And we got like our.
I'm living the
We're
discount
living the
dream.
dream.
50% off.
I used
Yeah.
to work,
off, right?
well, we work in restaurants a lot, but I adopted the like it's the same soup just reheated every day.
Oh Lord.
That's awful. Well, and what a sad way to live life. Like seriously, that's awful.
Yeah.
Like I do not like I like that's another way to change this is to be a person that's not willing to reheat the same soup every day, but to be like, guys, I'm gonna go find new food. We're
Yes.
gonna make something
enjoy it.
different.
Try a new recipe.
Like I'm gonna try yeah, like I like it makes me think of conceptualizing of living your life from like an artistic standpoint where every choice you make is a brushstroke and there's no right, there's no wrong, but like when you start interacting with your life in an engaged way where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen if I do this? But I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
It's way more interesting, and you never have to reheat that soup ever again.
Well, it also, like, when you're willing to, again, it's a lot of self-work. You can't just go into society and just, like we were saying, you can't just, like, introduce yourself to a new person, and if you start unloading, they're probably going to be a little perturbed.
Yeah,
unless they are
Yeah.
really, really confident within
Right.
themselves, being like,
Right.
oh, no, man, like, yeah, we got this.
Yeah.
But going into that situation, and, dude, I lost my train of thought.
Easy
For
to
the
do.
last-
I've been there.
I'm a goldfish today.
6 seconds is up.
And my 6 seconds is up, man. His cuteness keeps distracting me, honestly. Like,
Well-
look at this.
He's on his
How
own.
am I meant to survive or live my life with his little
He's got
Toby?
the-
He's just resting on his hand. He'll do this thing called I call it shark mode, where he'll like have his legs completely back and his front legs will also be back, so he'll just look like a little shark. He doesn't look like a shark. I just gave him the name Shark.
He's a cute shark.
He's a cute shark. Oh my god.
Well, to go off of that while you're thinking of
Yeah, I'm
what you're
thinking-
thinking of,
I'm
I'm going to
thinking-
forget what I'll say too,
Yeah.
and then they make you feel better.
Thank you.
No, but I literally did.
You did the thing.
No, you
I
did. Stop it.
Oh shit! Damn you, Tony. It's your fault.
You're welcome. Dude, it's so hot in here.
It is a bit.
It's
I think that's what it is.
You guys are
Who needs,
confabulating.
Damn it.
who needs central air? Is it getting hot in here? Am I? You know, being in those social situations, trying to pull what I actually was gonna say.
Yeah.
Just being in those social situations and being able to be vulnerable for a second is super important. I think just pulling the all encapsulated, and also to give probably an overgeneralization of just like where toxicity lies. I'm sitting here thinking about how, like, when I'm in my most, like, when I'm feeling the most discomfort, I'm monologuing. I'm sitting there creating these stories in my head that have never happened and maybe will never happen. They could, but I have that, like, close my eyes and I see this story play out on my head 1,000 times just thinking of what could happen, just because I'm not willing to talk to people or find a situation where I am in a safe space to talk to somebody. And maybe that's where the I mean that really is probably where
think it
toxicity lies.
is.
It's the
I
lack
think
of
that
communication.
is.
It's the lack of
Believing
willingness.
your own stories.
Yeah, believing your own stories without getting multiple points of view. If you haven't been told that you're wrong once in your life, or you haven't accepted that you are wrong once in your life, for one, holy shit. But two, I mean, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to feel like you are the oddball out for a second and have that conversation. Hopefully you're around people who aren't just trying to, like, change your mind. And yeah.
I think a lot of people will project the idea that people are thinking certain things about them. You know what I mean? Like you were walking through a crowd and someone looks at you and you're like, oh, they think I'm weird.
Exactly. Yeah.
People, I've done that. I do that all the time.
Oh god, I do that while we're on
instinctually.
stage,
I don't
man.
even think
I'll
about
read
it.
into people's just, like, body language while we're on stage. It is a terrible habit.
Yeah,
Terrible.
well, I'll look out and see somebody, like, cover their ear, and I'm like, oh, they hate us.
Oh my god.
And
I'll
I do that
literally
all
do
the
that,
time.
yeah.
Do we all know
But
our
it's probably not
Enneagrams?
true.
Do any of you guys know your Enneagrams?
Is that the
Enneagram number?
FJRP or?
I
No,
don't.
that's
I don't know if I've ever
different.
heard of that.
Enneagram is better. Ooh.
I
Can
can't
we
help it when
can
people
we
say
do the
stuff like that.
Enneagram sometime on this thing
I don't know what
that
this
we
is.
do? Oh, okay.
What is this?
Well, we'll have okay, so
There's a lot. It's a lot.
yeah.
Okay.
This is like
But
it kind
it's
of
a
like
lot. It's helpful to unpack statements
is.
like that.
It
Like,
is.
when somebody looks at me weird, I'm like, that person hates me.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
what's deeper than you thinking that person?
Kind of like
hates
the
you?
introspective.
Yeah.
kind of like
Yes.
why
Let's
do
dig
I think that?
a layer
the-
deeper
these
than.
these letters that you're bringing up, it's the same premise. It's like personality typing kind
But
of
it's less
thing.
sterile.
What I
It is.
think
It's
of
much.
myself.
It's much less sterile. It's much older. Like
Mhm.
it's based, but it's the same thing. Like
Mhm.
it like
Yeah.
spawns out
I
of
love it.
astrological stuff. Yeah.
Love
yeah.
it.
hmm
Yeah.
If you guys don't know what
That
it
made
is,
me
that would be a
curious.
fun thing.
Yeah,
to
no,
On a
I'm
tangent.
super curious now. I've never heard of that.
Say
Enneagram.
Week 3, we come back.
Enneagram.
Enneagram. I have my book. I'll bring my. I can.
Yeah, that'd be
let's get
super
together.
It sounded like a
and I
website.
will.
Yeah.
Enneagram.com.
Enneagram.com?
Maybe
There is
or
one.
.org, maybe.
You can
More
go
of like
on.
an
You can go
organization
online and do a
or-
test,
Yeah.
but I would rather
book.
do it
Book,
in
book, book,
person.
for sure.
Yes, with
Yeah.
all of you guys. That
It's
would be
fun.
super
Fantastic.
fun.
Yeah.
Okay. We could do just another one of these.
We have
Just doing that or whatever.
Honestly, I mean, we're still toying with the idea of how to even set the show up, because for a while we were doing Common Sense. We did one topic on one day, and then we felt like just doing an hour and a half of one topic wasn't enough time to just like unpack everything. We were like talking about the difference between like spirituality and religion.
That was the one that kicked it off.
And it was just like I was just so like we talked for an hour and a half, and I'm like, okay, well we gotta kind of cut it off. We gotta go to bed.
Yeah, we got.
We're done. It's been like 2 hours.
We got more. We got 20 more talking points, but we can't get to.
Yeah,
So next show.
On that conversation,
Yeah. So I think that right now the 3 series thing is working, because obviously we're not running out of shit to talk about with this, and we're good at tangenting.
Yes.
I'm glad we
Living
gave
up to
the
the
show
name.
this name, because it really did. Before we had the name for it, I'm like, man, we do not stay on topic. We're not good at this.
But
Everything
when you
relates
call
to
it
everything.
Tangent Talks, we are successful
Yeah.
every single time.
Exactly.
Hit the bullet.
Exactly.
Precisely. And then everything's kind of related in a sense.
Well, it shows that
When you
kind of,
live
like,
in a web.
pathway,
Yeah.
where it's like, this made me think of this. It's like, but it's about, sushi.
Life is sushi.
That
Did
was
you know
not
that?
what I was expecting.
Well,
we could make it. We could definitely create the story of how life is like sushi.
Life is like
Absolutely.
sushi, dude. If you don't know how,
We're just a
then
bunch
you
of
gotta try.
rolls.
We're just all.
We're on a conveyor belt in New York.
We're just crab wrapped in some rice.
Imitation crab.
Yeah,
Not even
imitation
real.
crab.
Some
Exactly.
of us are imitation crab.
Then you find those real crabs.
See, I think the only reason crab tastes so good is because you gotta crack it out of the shell, man. That's
You
the
gotta
only
work.
reason. You gotta
Effort?
work for it, and then it tastes way better. If it's in a can, you're just like, that was easy. It's
I didn't
like
earn
Not
this
the
crab.
same.
I've tasted better fish before. Crustacean before.
Crustacean.
Mollusk?
What's a crab? Is that
Are
just
they mollusk?
It's Mr. Krabs.
I'm dumb. So I think they're mollusks.
They're crustaceans.
You're a crustacean.
I'm crust.
I'm crusty sometimes.
I'm a crustacean.
Rude.
You know what?
You used to do like a crab thing when we were.
No, that was my favorite
We're
thing.
taking
Known each
turns.
other since childhood.
dear.
FYI.
Oh
yes.
yeah, like
Yes.
at
Taking
least
turns.
14 years old. Yeah. The crab people's a thing.
Crab people. Crab people. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The bar at work is really small, so when you have to do the behind and everything, you have to mix it up every now and then. Instead of saying behind, it's just like just behind somebody's head. We have one.
I still say corner when I'm going to Walmart sometimes. I'm like, corner. I'm like, I mean, it makes sense if there's a child just running through the aisle. At least he heard me, or hopefully I heard the kid going. Ah!
That has real life applications. If you're going around a corner and you're like coming around, and somebody goes, "Oh, thank God!" You're like,
That would help at Walmart actually if we engaged in that kind of language with each other.
Yeah.
It's just Marco Polo.
It
You're
would
just like,
really
I'm
change
present.
change the dynamic of going to Walmart.
I agree.
I don't know.
We need more interactions at Walmart. Is that a thing? Like peopleofwalmart.com?
I mean, I think
That's a
people of
thing.
Walmart.com
But that's not
is
what
just,
it's about.
Yeah,
But
it's
not the good
weird,
interaction.
weird shit happening in Walmart. That's what that website is.
If you want to see some people going into Walmart with their ass crack showing, that is the site you go to.
That's
to
the
your
site you go
local
to, man.
Walmart.
You don't need 4chan anymore. You got peopleofwalmart.com.
It's gross. Anyway,
You see what
I
sushi
hope you
brings
guys
to
have
the table.
enjoyed all of this.
No, we really appreciate everyone that was hanging out with us today. I didn't check the comments to see if anybody was.
Yeah, dude, I've
I
been
pulled up
super
this time.
fixated. Oh, let me see. My battery's about to die.
Perfect.
Oh, we have. So I don't know who No Cow was, but
Thank you for showing up regardless.
they are 25 years old. They told the chat. So
Oh,
You know what?
Hello.
Right,
Nice.
right in the age department.
we're
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
within
same
that general kind of age
I am-
group.
I am
Not
also
really,
25.
But also yes.
Hell yeah.
Thomas is your age group.
There's not much to go on there.
No, you guys are friends now.
You're your friends now. We got Carbine. Got
Oh, it's
Leo.
Corey.
Hello.
Hi, buddy.
No Cal is my friend. He was joking. How dare you? How could you?
You're not 25.
You're not 25. We were building a friendship. Thomas,
I'm hurt.
completely based.
You're a crustacean.
You're.
That's the prime insult right there.
Okay, guys. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming on and you making the whole
so
trip.
Sorry that I was so late,
You showed up at the
That's
best
We'll
part.
just have you on again.
but I tried
Yeah.
really hard.
We have one more segment of this series. So I mean, if you're able to make it, We'd love to
I-
have
She's
on.
gonna
leave
she's moving to
Saturday.
Chicago. Yeah.
Blah.
Oh,
But
man.
we can,
Well,
I
we
mean,
could
like,
we could distance it. We could
we do
distance it.
technology
You
in
could
this
zoom
room.
in.
I really
Yeah.
am confident we
could
could
zoom
bring her
in.
Maybe
in
we could
technologically.
we could have Anna right there.
We could.
Too.
Just put it
I
right
think that would
screen.
be
Just
super
screen.
fun.
think
Yeah,
have you
sure.
right there. You'll be a screen next time.
We can use our
Mhm.
tools.
Yep. I
Yeah.
think it's perfect.
And we'll have mic stands because we lost them
You're
in
gonna
the
find
storm.
them.
And the Midwest storm.
There was a
I just
storm.
got
It
them
pulled them
before
right
you,
out of
so-
the car.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, the storm. Got to go talk to that storm. Got to find that storm.
Tornadoes are rascally out here.
Yeah,
Name
super
Matt.
rascally.
Matt Storm.
Well, dang, yeah, we definitely talked for a while. I don't think we even reached all of our points that we
No?
wanted to specifically talk about, but I know that it's almost 9, and we've been talking for 2 hours, so... yeah, we're going to be back here. I don't even have a date yet because, you know, this summer has been so sporadic, but we will be back talking about rape culture in about a month. Next week we have the artist showcase, but these two are going to be gone. So I'm going to figure out something, or I'm going to do something, and something's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm really leaning towards not doing having the show itself in the summertime. You guys can give us your opinions, too, on that. Because I'm really thinking, like, if we plan the whole summertime, I'm just talking to you guys, too. Plan the whole summertime, and then in the winter, like, the full 9 months, we have normal scheduling, and then in the summertime, we just don't. We just plan.
That
we just
sounds
hang
like
out and
healthy
plan.
boundary making.
Yeah,
What you're
yeah.
doing.
We did go.
So
for
we've done a
year
full
straight,
year at this point,
Yeah.
and I'm
just
tired.
To see what it
Yeah.
would feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you know.
Yeah. No, truthfully, now we know that we don't like it. Just I don't feel like we've put as much effort into it. Like I feel like a lot of these, not that they haven't been good. It's just 9 times out of 10 we go on and we're like,
Thank you for coming.
thank you so much for
I
coming.
feel like I'm sometimes offended when the podcasts I like are like on a break, but I'm also like I respect that you're putting
Right.
like good energy into this and
Yeah.
that you need a break.
Exactly.
Like, good. Yeah.
So maybe next summer we're not going to be here, but we'll be here. Just not with you.
We could have a weekly live stream of just a cat cam. And then
Oh
you
my
can
god,
come
dude, I'd
hang
watch
out.
that for sure.
Just to keep people entertained.
We'd probably get more views.
We'd probably
Honestly,
we'd probably boom in that summer and then tank when we get
I
back.
agree. Man, I liked when they were just cat cam.
Yeah, they're not the same. since
They're not the
cat
same
cam.
podcast anymore. It's a podcast. It's not even video. It's just like, this is the sound of my cat
Just
sleeping. There's just no sound for 2 hours. Just
Yeah.
like, man, did you see minute 32, bro? Oh my god.
Yeah, I was brushing my teeth. Made my day.
All right, guys, thank you so much for being here.
Wash your toothbrushes.
Wash your damn toothbrushes. That makes no sense to you,
Yeah,
but it
but
totally.
we'll tell you about it after.
We'll tell you about
I'm
it
sure there's
after.
It's a good story.
There's good, yes.
And
Thank
love
you.
yourself.
Love
Because I say that every time.
You do say
now.
that every time. That's a thing now.
Not as much
It
You
just
have a
happened one
catchphrase?
day.
A cat.
Catphrase.
Yeah. There's a cat right here. Sorry.
Love your cats also.
Love your cats as well. Oh my god. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Marie.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
Thank
so
you,
much.
my beautiful co-hosts. And
Who?
you
I'm
guys
the
all have a beautiful
co-host.
day. And like Tom always says, love yourself. Goodbye.
Bye.